Hello, I'm Linda, 31 years old, and I always believed I had a solid relationship with my mother-in-law, Melissa. From the very first time we met, her warm smile made me feel embraced, leading me to think she genuinely cared about me. Little did I know that beneath her friendly facade, she was secretly scheming to create rifts between my husband, Scott, and me. Melissa would call Scott daily while I was at work. At first, I thought nothing of it. It seemed normal for a mother to want to stay connected with her son, but gradually, I began to notice a shift in Scott's demeanor. He became distant, his attitude towards me often laced with hostility. Confused by this sudden change, I decided to confront him one evening when we were alone. "Scott, is everything okay? You've been acting strangely," I said, hoping to break through his wall. He responded sharply. "I'm fine, Linda, just leave me alone. Isn't that what you want?" he retorted. I was taken aback but pressed on. "What do you mean?" he accused me with frustration. "Do you just want to take all my money and leave?" I was hurt and stunned by his accusation. "How could you think I would do such a thing? What's gotten into you?" I demanded, deeply offended. Scott let out a heavy sigh, his expression shifting as he sank into a chair, hiding his face in his hands. He looked troubled. "I'm sorry for snapping, Linda. It's just that something's been bothering me," he admitted. "What is it, love? You know we can face anything together," I said, trying to reassure him. After a moment, he confessed. "Linda, I hate to say this, but my mom has been saying some really negative things about you during our calls." I was shocked. Melissa, whom I had considered almost a second mother, speaking ill of me? I could hardly believe what Scott was telling me. How could she do this? Why would she try to sabotage our relationship? As doubt crept into my mind, I tentatively suggested, "Are you sure you're interpreting her words correctly? Sometimes communication can be misunderstood." But Scott remained adamant. "I'm not misreading anything, Linda. It's clear that my mother has taken a dislike to you, and it's not just a misunderstanding," he insisted. I was incredulous. "That's hard to swallow. Just last week, Melissa and I had a wonderful conversation. I shared our recent achievements and our dreams of starting a business together." Scott shook his head, revealing a troubling detail. "That's ironic because she told me today that you plan to hijack our business, register everything under your name, and disappear with all the profits." I was flabbergasted. "That's ridiculous, Scott. Why would she say such things?" Scott sighed, frustration and confusion evident in his voice. "I know it sounds insane, and I hate to admit it, but her words have been eating away at me. I started to believe her accusations, which is why I snapped at you earlier. I'm really sorry." Determined to clear the air, I proposed a plan. "If you're convinced I won't believe you, let's find out the truth together. Next time she calls, let me listen in without her knowing. We can connect through Zoom while you talk to her on speaker. That way, I can hear everything." "That sounds like a good idea," Scott agreed, hopeful that this would resolve our issues. We set our plan in motion. The very next day, as I headed to work and Scott stayed home, he prepared for the call. True to our arrangement, he added me to a conference call while he answered his mother's call on speaker, unaware of my quiet presence. Melissa began with her usual small talk before quickly shifting to express her concerns. "How was your day, Scott?" she asked. "It was fine, Mom, and yours?" he replied. "It was stressful. I've been worried about you, especially considering your situation," she said, her voice heavy with concern. "What situation?" Scott inquired, playing along. "The fact that you're married to such a deceitful woman," she spat out, revealing her true feelings about me without hesitation. Listening in from the other line, the extent of Melissa's animosity became painfully evident. Her words were not just misinterpretations, they were calculated and harmful. "She doesn't love you, Scott. How much more do I need to say for you to see the truth?" Melissa's words dripped with disdain, and my heart sank as I realized the depth of her betrayal. "These things affect me too, you know," Melissa said sharply. "The longer you stay with that woman, the more stress it adds to my life, and it's shaving years off me." "Mom, please stop," Scott cut in, his patience wearing thin. "I haven't found any evidence of what you're claiming, so can we drop these unfounded accusations?" "So now you're calling me a liar? You don't want to hear my advice?" Melissa shot back, her tone fierce. "I'm just being honest. She doesn't care about you. If you're not careful, she'll take all your money and leave you. Let me call you back, okay? Love you." "Wait, I have more to say." But Scott had reached his limit. He hung up the phone and then unmuted me from the conference call. "Hello, Linda. How could she speak about you like that? Has she lost her mind?" Scott was visibly shaken. "I know this is overwhelming. I'm sorry you had to hear that, but it was crucial for you to know the truth," he said. I'm at a loss for words. She sounded like a completely different person, not at all like the sweet woman who used to check up on me. I replied, disbelief heavy in my voice. Now I see she was only pretending to care to gather information and twist it against me. As the reality of Melissa's betrayal settled in, I felt a deep sense of hurt. The ally I once trusted was actively undermining me. Scott reassured me. I don't believe her anymore, especially after what I just heard. That woman is unbelievable. I almost fell for her lies, despite always trusting her as my mother. I understand, babe. It must be difficult to confront the extent of her lies, especially since she's your mom, I said gently, trying to comfort him. More than anything, I'm angry. I don't know what she hopes to achieve by speaking so harshly about you, but at least now you've seen it for yourself, Scott said, frustration evident in his voice. She's completely lost it, he added. Yes, we need to confront her about everything. Absolutely, but maybe not just yet, I suggested, pausing to think. What do you mean? I thought now that we know, we should just confront her, Scott replied, surprised by my reluctance. I'd like to listen in on a few more phone calls, if that's okay, he requested, feeling the need for more evidence to fully understand Melissa's manipulation. Scott was taken aback by my request. He thought one conversation was enough to take action, but I believed we needed a clearer picture before confronting Melissa about her deceitful behavior. If there's one thing I've learned about master manipulators, it's that they thrive on twisting perceptions and memories. If we confront her too soon, she could easily gaslight us, making us doubt our understanding of her words. As painful as it was to hear her spiteful accusations, I knew I needed more evidence. I wanted to record these moments to have undeniable proof of her belittling comments when the time came to confront her. Over the next few weeks, Scott followed our plan and secretly added me to the calls. Melissa, unaware of my presence, continued her usual tirade of belittling remarks and false accusations. Despite growing accustomed to her deceit, I was still shocked by her ability to twist innocent past interactions into something sinister, painting me as the villain. With each covert phone call, my anger intensified, fueling my determination to expose Melissa's true nature. This was no longer just about my vindication. It was essential to protect others who might also fall victim to her manipulative tactics. These recorded conversations had become crucial pieces of evidence for revealing Melissa's deceitful character. As I prepared to confront her, I knew it wouldn't be easy to challenge a family member who had spun such a tangled web of lies. Yet, I found comfort in Scott's unwavering support, ready to stand by me against the onslaught of lies we were sure to face. After weeks of secretive listening and evidence gathering, I was fed up with the constant undermining from my mother-in-law. It was time to take a stand. One evening, as Scott and I sat in our living room strategizing our approach to finally confront Melissa, my phone rang. It was Melissa, likely calling for another one of her so-called friendly check-ins. After uncovering her deceit, I was furious and ready to confront her immediately. However, Scott hesitated, urging me to pause. Wait, babe, I know you want to address this now, but maybe we should hold off for just a moment, he advised. Why? What for? I asked, struggling to contain my anger. For starters, we don't know why she's calling. Maybe she's calling to confess, he suggested. Unlikely, but still a possibility, I conceded. Just listen to her. If she doesn't come clean and apologize by the end of the call, then we can proceed with your plan. No questions asked, Scott pleaded, his voice filled with hope. She's still my mom, Linda. I guess part of me hopes she'll realize her mistakes and change. I just need to be sure. Seeing the pain in Scott's eyes reminded me of the toll this situation was taking on him. I realized I had been so consumed by my emotions that I hadn't fully considered Scott's struggle. Okay, I'll hold off on confronting her for now, I finally agreed, albeit reluctantly. Thank you, Linda, Scott replied, relief evident in his voice. I took a deep breath and answered the phone, my tone cautious but resolute. Hello, dear, how are you? Melissa's voice dripped with her usual syrupy sweetness, which only fueled my anger. I'm fine, Melissa, how are you? I managed, keeping my composure intact. I noticed her slight surprise at my coolness, but I was determined not to let her manipulate the conversation this time. Although I wasn't ready to lay everything on the table just yet, I couldn't resist dropping a hint about my awareness of her schemes. I wanted her to feel that something had shifted, that her actions were not as covert as she believed. Oh darling, are you sure you're fine? You sound upset, she probed, feigning concern. I suppose I am a bit upset, Melissa. You see, I've recently come across some rather shocking news, I replied, keeping my tone cool yet firm. What news, dear? She inquired, curiosity and caution intertwining in her voice. Well, it turns out someone has been speaking very unkindly about me, slandering my name for no clear reason, perhaps out of jealousy or something else, I continued, choosing my words carefully. Oh dear, how awful, Melissa responded, attempting to mirror sympathy. Yes, it is awful, Melissa. Have you ever encountered someone so cruel that they would harm another's reputation for no reason at all? I asked pointedly, subtly directing the conversation toward her behavior. A telling silence followed my question. Through this carefully crafted dialogue, I aimed to signal to her that I was on to her, setting the stage for a confrontation that, although postponed, was now unavoidable. I think we need to continue this conversation tomorrow, dear. I'm suddenly feeling very tired, Melissa said abruptly before hanging up. Before I could react to her hasty exit, Scott's phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Melissa. Got another update on your slimy wife. Someone else has been talking about her too. Turns out I'm not the only one who thinks she's no good. You need to get out of that situation while you can. I'll call you tomorrow while she's at work to tell you the full story. Scott and I were both stunned, hurt by her continued deceit. The sight of the text seemed to extinguish any lingering doubt Scott had about his mother's duplicity. He looked ready to take action. We need to stop her, Linda. How can she keep being so deceitful? He said, a mix of anger and resolve in his voice. It seems she cut the call short to fabricate more lies about me for you tomorrow. This is sickening, Scott. I can't believe she would go to such lengths, I replied, feeling a swirl of outrage and sadness. Caught off guard, Melissa nearly choked on her drink. She hadn't expected to hear my voice, probably thought she was imagining things for a moment. Don't worry, Melissa. You're not hallucinating. I'm here on a conference call with Scott. I've been listening to your conversations for the past 3 weeks, I revealed, maintaining my composed tone. Linda, how did you, I believe there's been a misunderstanding, Melissa stammered, panic creeping into her voice. I let out a cold laugh, unwilling to let her twist the narrative. Oh, please don't insult my intelligence, Melissa. The act is over. I know all about the games you've been playing and the lies you've been feeding Scott. We are not going to be pawns in your schemes any longer. I can't believe you would be so cruel and manipulative without reason. What drove you to this? Scott chimed in, disbelief and frustration lacing his tone. Melissa, you're pathetic. Even now, after being caught, you're clumsily trying to cover your tracks. Not to worry, though, I've recorded everything you've said. Let me refresh your memory, I said, as I began to play the audio recordings I had gathered over the weeks. The cruel words echoed in the room, sending chills down my spine. I could see the panic wash over Melissa's face as she faltered, desperately trying to talk over the recordings, but her attempts to defend herself against the undeniable evidence fell flat. Realizing she had nowhere to hide, Melissa's demeanor shifted slightly. Well, Linda, guess what? I don't care that you found out the truth. So what? What are you going to do? We all know you're bad for my son. Bad for him in what way, exactly? I pressed, eager to hear her reasoning. I don't know. You're hiding something. I can feel it. I don't have any evidence, but I just know you're no good for him. She snapped back, her argument weak and baseless. The lack of substance in her accusations only underscored her desperation and inability to manipulate the situation any further. I'm going to expose you for the manipulator you truly are. How dare you? Once I tell everyone in the family about this, they're all going to side with me, not you. No one will believe an outsider like you. Linda, Melissa hissed, venom dripping from her words. You're mistaken, Melissa, I replied calmly, my confidence unwavering. What you haven't realized, despite my earlier warnings, is that I've been recording this conversation too. Yes, that includes our conversation last night and the text messages you sent to Scott. You've played your hand, and now it's time for you to face the consequences. We have solid evidence of your deceit, Scott added, his voice steady yet filled with sadness. I hate to say it, but I'm done making excuses for you. I can no longer justify your actions or hope for your change, he continued. Sensing the seriousness of her predicament, Melissa abruptly changed her tone. Baby, Linda, let's talk about this privately. This information doesn't need to go public. I'll apologize, okay? Just delete those recordings. Let me come over right now. You're finishing your shift soon, right? We can settle this over a cup of tea. Save it, Melissa. Your attempts to clean up your mess are pathetic. You have no shame. It's far too late for apologies, especially after being caught. Who knows how long you would have continued this deceit if we hadn't confronted you today? I shot back sharply. We're going to tell everyone about your actions, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And just to be clear, I no longer want to be in contact with you. I can't surround myself with your negativity any longer, Scott declared firmly. As we had promised, Scott and I exposed Melissa in various family group chats, detailing her manipulative tactics. Overcome with fear and embarrassment, she left the family groups, but we added her back to face the consequences of her actions. The response was swift. Everyone was disappointed and appalled by her behavior. They collectively agreed that she needed to be temporarily removed from family gatherings to reflect on her actions and hopefully improve. Melissa bombarded us with calls, pleading for us to stop ruining her reputation. but we remained steadfast, reminding her of the mess she had created for herself. After exposing her, a deep sense of satisfaction washed over me. Melissa's grip on our lives had loosened, and we were reclaiming control. I felt confident that she wouldn't dare manipulate anyone like this again.